guys.
I've got a pimple. I'm really self-conscious.
From the Manly Seagulls.
Here comes through Luai.
The SuperCoach Experience podcast is one of the best podcasts going around, boys.
They go to hole.
Keep doing what you're doing, and yeah, I just want to say, what a podcast.
Running the try.
Go the Mighty Eagles.
Hey lads, Ewan Aiken here from the New Zealand Warriors. Hope you have a big year with the SuperCoach Experience podcast.
Got the ball to Sims. It's down to hole. To hole. It's gone in again. What a pass.
I pressed the wrong button and didn't stop the intro. I'm sorry.
I was like, what's going on here? Are we
vibing out.
Oh my
Is this
god,
it?
this is
Are we
not a
on?
great.
Oh, God, of course. This is us.
No,
This
we
is
can
how
just
always
start it again. We can just start it again. All right.
I was vibing out to that. It was good.
I know. So was I.
You can cut some pretty fat shapes.
3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome back to the SuperCoach Experience podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Savage, the coach of the Savage Turbos. And yes, second week in a row with that new intro. And I was absolutely bumping out to that. I think that absolutely rocks. Pound cake is no more. We're not bringing it back. That is the one. I'm joined here by my trusty guests, the coach of Kiss My Behinds, Jake. How are you, Jake?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm keen for the episode today. But yeah, I'm going well.
All Stars happened on the weekend. What'd you think of it?
I mean, can't really take much out in terms of Super Coach. It was a pretty good game. A lot of my Sharks were represented, and yeah, it was good to just watch some football, to be honest.
Very good. And we've got the reigning champion in Tim Moody wearing his trusty tracksuit today. How are you, Timmy?
Good, man. Yeah, look, I messaged Brad and I said, look, let's get our tracksuits on, man. So, and then I saw he was wearing a black hat, and right next to me I had a black hat, so I chucked my black hat on so he could totally twin out right now.
Very, very good. And as Tim mentioned, we're joined by Brad Huxley, the coach of Bottom Dollar Rookies last year. I'm not sure if he's changed his name this year, but finished 11th last year. He won our SuperCoach Championship ring competition last year, and he gave his ring away to Henry, one of our beloved guests. How are you, Brad?
Yeah, good, boys. I got sacked from the Bottom Dollar Rookies last year for a off-season. It's still in
Not making the
legal
top
dispute. Nah, I mean, like, legal dispute at the moment. I mean, there was something involved, with the owner, his wife, a spatula and some olive oil, but we can't get into it too much. But yeah.
No, well, that's fine. If you can't get into it too much, we'll just leave that to our imaginations.
You know, there hasn't
So-
been that many off-season controversies, but it seems like it's already
Well,
begun.
I mean, it was tough. I mean, it hasn't been released in the press yet, but I'm sure they're saving it for round one. But re-signed on with our new club, Elite Throbbers. So, yeah.
Elite Throbbers. Nice.
Very
They
good.
seem like go-getters.
That's how they go.
So you came 11th last year. Obviously, that means you're probably on Tim's tail for most of the back end of last year. How was kind of that journey?
I was nowhere near Tim's tail. Tim just smoked everyone. So I don't think anyone was really on Tim's tail at all, to be honest. I mean, I was sort of no hope for a fair while, and then just sort of snuck in at the end. I think a few people had a Barry Crocker at the end of the season, and just slipped my way in.
So were you kind of one of them people that were where were you ranked leading up to it?
I can tell you in round 11, I think I was ranked about 10,500 or something like that. And then,
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, just went on an absolute tear. So,
and so do you know how much behind you were?
Coming into that last round, I was sitting in 18th.
Yep.
But behind Tim,
and how many points?
No idea.
How many points behind Tim did you end up on?
I would have been probably 10,000. I think Tim smoked second by
No, I think I'm at a gap of like 400 and something, 404, I think. So I'll probably beat you by maybe 500 or 600, maybe. I don't know.
Plus some.
But
very good. Well, that just proves, even after 11 rounds in this kind of format with these kind of rules, that you can still do well and come back at certain points of the season. Maybe round 20 is a bit too late, but Tim, last year when you made that David Fafita captain choice, it wasn't all doom and gloom because you obviously ended up winning it. But yeah, I guess that's just a testament, both of your sides, and both wearing the tracksuit. Tim, you've been quite reluctant to wear the tracksuit this year.
Yeah, not on the podcast like every episode. Like, not leading into this season too much. Like, the tracksuit's going to be donned, like pretty much throughout the whole year. So I just thought I'd keep it fresh, keep it fresh. You don't see Nathan Cleary wearing his footy jersey at the Penrith Plaza. That'd be weird, Like, so for me, like, this is my game outfit, this is my game. I'm like, my warm-up tracksuit. So I don't want to be sweating it up too much, man.
I would really love to see Nathan Cleary walking through Penrith Plaza with a Penrith jersey on. They do walk around in their team gear a lot, so
yeah, team gear,
kind of the same thing. Yeah, righto. So today is the Centre Wing podcast. This is going to be a huge one. I don't know if it's going to be 2 parts. So I don't really want to drag it out if we don't need to. So we'll see how we go today. Trials. I mean, Brad, you're going to come on for the trials, but I feel like after watching the trials on the weekend, I don't want to read too much into them because, you can get a little bit of an indication on certain players, but to make a whole podcast based on that, I don't think it's necessary. So with the Centre Wings, we're starting off with that. Just need to plug the Top Sport multi that we have, $7.50. The Sharks, Manly, Penrith to finish in the top 6 and Newcastle to finish outside of the top 8, $7.50. Use the code SCEXperience when you sign up to Top Sport. Over 18, gamble responsibly. Have we jumped on the multi yet, lads?
Can I say I'm more confident now in the Sharks making the top 6 than I was when we first launched it? Yeah, just little things that I saw in the Indigenous game. I think Trinder wasn't outstanding. I think we've seen enough from Hines. I think he'll go good, man. I'm really excited about what Hines can do. William Kennedy's probably going to have another pretty good year. He was, electric at times there. And then having McInnes come back and, Finucane, new coach, I think, I'm pretty confident, man. I think the top 6 is realistic. I think 6.
I think so too. I think their combinations are going to be very different. But yeah, I am 100% so glad that we've made this market. I think it's a really good market, and
I think Brit Nicora as well had an outstanding game.
Yes,
definitely.
I guess. Let's start on the All-Stars game. So Brit Nicora, looks like he's put on a bit of muscle. Looks like he's got that tackle busting and offloads kind of just creeping back into his game. He's always kind of SuperCoach relevant, but obviously people come onto the scene, they burst out, and then they take a while to kind of get to where they can get to at their heights. Brad, what are your thoughts on him?
I thought he was really impressive. I think he sort of was hitting the line quite hard. It was pretty handy outside Nico Hines, so hopefully that combination will stick on that right-hand side if that's the way they're going to play. I thought he was really, really good. Looks really fit, really sort of hungry, I guess, this season. I think potentially getting benched here and there last year and having a sort of a down season. But also I think potentially that could be the influence for the forwards for the Sharks this year with Craig Fitzgibbon as the coach because he was pretty handy as well.
Jake, as the resident Sharks fan, what are your thoughts on Brit Nicora? How do you see it going forward?
Yeah, I thought he was fantastic in the All-Stars game, and I think he's going to pretty much be on the Sharks strike edge because he's going to be Hines there. It's going to be Nicora and Jesse Raymond, which is our major strike weapons. So I think, as long as he can keep his spot, like last year he was down on form and he was in and out of the team. But if he can stay on form and play like he did in the Maori game, then going forward, I mean, later on, if we see enough from him, I think teams are going to definitely bring him in as a bit of a pod in the second row where I think a lot of people can be, I guess, going different sort of players.
Tim, I've seen in a lot of like podcasts and things where you've been involved where you've kind of said stick with the pack at the start and then kind of zag when the others zig, as Des alluded to last year. Is starting with Brit Nicora something that you find too risky to begin with?
I don't think it's too risky. I just think, I don't think it's too risky. I not in that position. I don't think you can get too risky in second row. I think if you're going to go like, some weird fullback or some weird halfback or something like that, that can be a bit risky. But, if you think he can score similar sort of points to like, Angus and those sorts of guys, he's much cheaper. But if you might put him in sort of more the Capewell sort of price tag, I think he's about 400 and something, isn't he?
He's 482 and 2% owned.
Yeah, so he's pretty similar price to like, he's in that sort of bracket of the Capewell and Aiken sort of price if you're putting Aiken in your second row, not your CWT. But yeah, I don't think it's that risky. But I think the thing is, like, if he kills it at the start, my point is kind of like it's not that big of a deal to be that different at the start because everyone will just jump on him in round 3 or 4 or something anyway. So if he's ripping it up. So if you get it right, you've only got, maybe picking up 20, 30, 40 points over those 2 weeks or whatever until everyone else picks them up.
So here's a hypothetical, lads. Ewan Aiken is 486. Satili Tupanura is exactly the same price at 482, 200. Where are we ranking them all? I'll start with you, Jake.
I'll put Aiken at the top of those. I think just because he's a centre wing and you're probably going to plug him there anyway. Tupanua, the Roosters have a pretty easy draw all the way up until I think round 10. And outside Keary, it doesn't really matter what side. You've got Teddy in there anyway. So I think Tupanua probably second. Then Nicora, because it's too much of an unknown, I'd put him probably at the bottom of the list with those 3.
Timmy?
I kind of like Satili more than Nicora just because of the side he's in, for one. And look, I've got a really big soft spot for Satili. He was handy for me last year. And I just even when you go back and you watch some of his junior highlights and stuff, he loves tries, man. You know what I mean? And he does need to score tries, but I think that's what he's there to do. So I kind of like him. Aiken, yeah. Look, I'm sort of just on the bandwagon with him. I like what I see as well. I think it's handy and he's quite good. But I'm just on the bandwagon with that one. It's not something I'm like massive on. But I do see what everyone else is seeing. And yeah, Nicora, look, promising, but I would want to wait and see how it goes in first grade if he can be that sort of consistency sort of guy as well.
Yep. Brad, what are your thoughts?
I really like Satili. I had him the whole of last year. You can sort of just play him on matchups like against the Panthers and stuff like that, or some of the other teams like Storms and everything like that. You can sort of pick his sort of 30s and 40s games, whereas if you got weak edges like certain teams like your Broncos of last year, the Eels tended to give up a fair amount of points to edges and everything like that. You plug him in for those sort of games, and he was really good. Generally scoring tries in those sort of matchups. So yeah, I like him. I think Britain will be more consistent than Satili, but I think Satili's upside is a hell of a lot higher. Yeah. So yeah. And then Ewan Aiken. I mean, if he's outside Sean Johnston, all over that in the centre wing. Yeah.
Awesome. And my personal opinion is probably Aiken is number 1, but I'm not going to have him in centre wing. I'm going to have him in second row. And then it'll probably be Satili and then Brit Nicora.
I do like Capewell at that price too. I'd sort of put him in that sort of category. Yeah. I think he'll get more minutes at the at Broncos. So I think he'll stay on the field more, and I think he'll be like one of their marquee sort of go-to guys. But we'll see how it goes. He's not someone I want to start with. Yeah, you're shaking your head. You're not feeling it, Brad. You're not feeling Capewell.
And yeah, I think without him being in the available at centre wing, I'm just not really keen to touch him all that much yet. Yeah.
I do like him at the price, but we had the second rower episode to talk about him.
Yeah.
I mean, we probably brushed him because we were at Panthers, remember, Timmy?
Yeah, I think he'll probably have to make plenty of tackles this year, but
yeah. And I hate to stick with the second rowers, but David Fifita, after his performance on the weekend, what do we think of him? Is he now I hate saying the term must-have, but is he like in quotations, or is he not? Because he's picked up.
I don't know. Yeah,
ribbon.
He's got that rib niggle. They can be annoying. Like I've suffered one of them just in Oztag, falling on a football like that was loose on the ground, not having Jordan Rapana come flying into me. So it's a bit different. And I know he's a much bigger guy than what I am, and probably has better injury people around him to deal with that sort of stuff. But the thing is, right, like, they can be a bit annoying and a bit niggly. And maybe if he doesn't start the year off, off well and doesn't get the minutes we want, maybe he is overpriced and it could be a bit of a letdown. But yeah, I don't know. Like that play, there was that one play where he broke out and sort of like set up that try. That was nice. But I don't feel like there was heaps that I didn't get to see heaps of that palmy, Fendi, that he does in a lot of other games. And I think that was basically just because the Maoris are a bigger sort of side, you know what I mean? And they weren't going to get as bossed and bullied as round as some of the other opponents that Fifita comes up against.
I think Paddy Herbert also did a pretty good job on him as well. So that was quite interesting. But yeah.
So
I don't know.
Also from the All-Stars game, we're not talking about second rows, but from the All-Stars game, we're talking about centre wingers. Jesse Raymond, he looks like he's kind of back to his absolute peak. What do we think of Jesse Raymond to start the year, Timmy? You started with him. Oh, you didn't start with him, but you had him.
No, I picked him up late. In the back end of the year it was, man. And like he sort of does a job, you know what I mean? There's not much of a ceiling there. I just think if he scores some tries, yeah, but he's kind of consistent for you because he gets involved and he sort of, he has those sort of line breaks and he sort of offloads and stuff like that in his game as well. But yeah, I wouldn't be too fussed on starting him, especially if you are looking at a lot of other Sharks. Like if people are looking at having a Hines or they want to look at Nicora, I wouldn't want too many Sharks in my side. And yeah, I think Nicora is more for later in the year, maybe not to start. But hey,
yes,
I'm not talking about Nicora. We're talking about Raymond. There you go.
We're talking about Raymond. Brad,
yeah,
what do you think?
Both in the same category for me, though.
He sort of has that play where he goes through and breaks the line and everything like that. And that's where he sort of tends to get a lot of his points, but he just doesn't – he seems to hit that sort of 50s and 60s ceiling quite repetitively. He might have a game, of 80 and then the floor's about 40 or something like that. So he's fairly consistent, but I just haven't seen the potential shows that he should be able to produce some of these 120s, 130s, double try games, but just haven't seen it quite yet. So I just probably wouldn't start with him. Yeah. He's
at that price as a center wing where you can't really take the risk on him. It's just a bit too much at $550. I think if you're gonna take a pod at that sort of price, what do we think of Dalawantini-Zelezniak, Brad? 467,000 outside SJ. I mean, I've heard chat that with Walsh out, he starts a fullback. In that case, I am not interested whatsoever. But
I've heard chat as well that Cody Nikorima starts at fullback for round one.
That would be interesting. But what do you think of Dalawantini-Zelezniak?
If he plays on the wing, I like the start of the Warriors draw. He's priced at about 460, I think. Yeah, I mean, he certainly knows his way across the stripe and loves a couple of hit-ups. So he'd be pretty handy, but he's priced about the 55 average or something like that, pretty sure. Yeah, he'd need a fair few tries, but certainly one that can go on a fair run. So I don't mind it as a call. Certainly a Bulls pod for sure.
Jake, you've come back from doing a number 2. What do you think?
No. It was an important call,
Oh, okay, yeah. But top 20,000 kind of private conversations, yeah.
Yeah, it was about my job being on the line, especially this year after the drastic performance. Just like Griffin, actually, I don't know how he just got a contract extension at the Dragons before he's even played a game, but there you go. Somehow people get a job.
So what do you think of Dallin Watini-Lesniak? I can't believe this is the second one I've brought up, and I can't believe
usually Mikey's the one that struggles with the hyphenated names, but
yeah,
DWZ.
DWZ. I don't know why you don't just say that. But yeah, he's a crush of yours because he's outside your previous crush in SJ. That's the reason. I mean, I don't see much room for him to improve. Even if he's on the right wing, does love a lot of runs, but I just think there's, especially early on, I think you're going to go kind of the Aitken, the Stags, and then a bunch of cheapies to sort of fit around early on. So I think maybe later on, if he starts going around the Warriors, they do have a good draw, but I don't like it as much as you do, Savs.
Yeah. I feel like I just see a little bit of value there. You got to look for the next Ruben Garrick. Let's move on to Ruben Garrick. He's the highest priced center wing. Timmy, what do you think of Ruben Garrick and premium options in center wing? Are you considering any?
No, not really. The most I'm willing to spend, I wouldn't spend any more than $500K on a center wing to start the year from my side, the way I'm structuring it. I think you could probably set up good teams with some pretty gun centers and maybe go wider in other positions. But yeah, that's not the way I'm going with it. I've got one in my mind that I'm really, really keen on now, is Sloan. I just think because he's playing at fullback and he might be a bit like, you're paying more than what we did for Dane Laurie last year, but I think that we might get higher scores than Dane Laurie, and sort of you might have to pay for that though, to start with, it's 400 something K, but I'm kind of balancing him against Stags, and if I could only have one, not the other, I'm thinking I might rather take the punt on Sloan, just because he's in fullback and he's touching the ball a lot more and stuff like that. So,
are you worried at all about their early draw?
Yeah,
the Warriors, the Panthers, Sharks, Penrith, Bunnies, Knights, Roosters. So it's a lot of okay-ish game, and then some of the big boys.
So maybe there's a lot of 50s in those games or something that's just you don't really need to be on, but it's later on once they get past those rounds, he might be right for the picking, you reckon? I'll take that on. Okay, yeah, I haven't really paid a massively close attention to the draw, to be fair. I'm only sort of aware of certain teams.
Pretty rough till about round 20.
Okay.
Bring him in at the end.
There is a comment here. Sloan is named to play wing, Ramsey fullback this weekend. Do we think that's an indication of anything? I mean, all the chatter I've seen is Sloan is going to be the fullback, but, I wouldn't be surprised with this if Ramsey gets the first crack.
Sloan just seems like a way better footballer than Ramsey. I don't understand that. That's weird for mine, but we'll see.
All right.
Sorry, Savs, I think they're just going to keep trying against each other for all these trials. I've heard Sloan versus Ramsey, so I think they're throughout this game they're just going to interchange fullback to wing.
Yeah, there's a chat with Hook Griffin. I forget which podcast it is, where they get a coach or two on for fantasy, but he was speaking quite highly of Sloan and Amona as well. So I think they'd be front runners, I'm presuming, for their position 6 and fullback, effectively. So
it's very good. Jake, are you considering any premium centre wing options?
No, and the reason for that is I think there's a lot of cheaper or mid-price value picks for centre wing instead of, I guess, other positions. And I think you can kind of go one of two ways in whether you go a gun in, say, for feeder in second row and then a cheapie in, say, centre wing or the reverse of that. And I think the difference between, say, a cheap centre wing and a cheap second row. I think the cheaper centre wings definitely have more price to make, and they're probably going to score a lot better as well. So
they grow money faster too, don't they? So you can sort of
exactly.
trade them up faster, and I like the idea. That's where my head's at with like cheaping out with the centre wings, just because they can grow so much money quickly.
Because all they have to do is score a try, and then they've got 3 price rises for the next however long. So I think, I mean, the only one you can maybe go is maybe a Garrick or a Toto, but it's a lot of money where I'd rather go with a feeder and then a cheaper player at centre wing that's going to make me money to then bridge up to those guns.
The fact that you can get Fafita at one of them prices is just crazy. It's just a no-brainer. Brad, a Brian Toa and a Ruben Garrick, what are you kind of thinking? Would you prefer one of them players, or would you prefer an Angus Crichton in your second row for $100K cheaper?
Well, I think if you were going to spend up, I probably wouldn't spend up for Garrick off the start. I think you can pretty much treat Brian Toto as a second rower, so because he effectively does the same amount of work, hit ups and everything like that. His base being as high as it is, and then if he crosses the stripe, it's 100. So he's effectively a second row forward that you can select at centre wing. So if you're going to spend up in those top premium two, I'd probably start with Toto. Just with the consistency. I mean, I think the highest that I have in my team for premium is 486K, and that's Paul Momorowski.
Go on the Momo.
I really like Momorowski, especially with the potential goal kicking. Is that why he's in your side?
Yeah, 100%. Hopefully, I mean, obviously that's pending he gets named. I
think he might, and I think he should. Like he's done a pretty good job at the Panthers, and he showed like a lot of promise there. And he's played at the club before, so they know him well. And yeah, I kind of like it, man. I liked it, especially because he's goal kicking in a side that I see scoring a lot of tries as well. So I think that's a nice cheeky little option you've got there.
Do we see him playing the left side or the right side? The right side would mean Manu would have to shift to right wing. The left side would mean Sawali has to play right wing.
Well, I think Sawali's out for the first few games.
Yeah.
I think so.
And then Billy Smith has obviously been probably.
And then there's Kevin Nguama with the Wesley Snipes on him. Jeez, he's got big biceps this year.
There's a few.
I'm not too sure. I was sort of penned him in for left center, but we'll see how it goes. Because Billy Smith has been touted for quite some time as well, but that's a nice easy downgrade to that. And then I presume Sam Walker would kick goals in that situation there. But yeah,
very good. So spending up in the center wings looks like none of us are too keen. I've looked at the top 10. And it's very surprising. Like Adam Doueihi, number 3, obviously we don't really need to go into him, but when he becomes available, it's definitely a wait and see on his role. Alex Johnston, we're not keen, I assume, to start the season, seeing how the Rabbitohs go. There's Josh Mansour in at 6th highest centre wing, which is crazy. Obviously, he scored well when he played on the left wing for the Rabbitohs. Valentine Holmes at 7th, Jordan Rapana, Jesse Raymond, and Matt Ikevalu. Matt Ikevalu looks like he's going to get that spot, possibly over Katoa. Is it, Jake? I don't understand that. Sione Katoa's been a gun for the Sharks.
Yeah, it's going to be between those two. But, I mean, he's not going to be an option for Supercoach Ikevalu, even if he does get that, because the Roosters' right winger was scoring a billion tries no matter who was there anyway. So, and wearing the Sharks, you're not going to get as many tries. I think we can all safely say that.
Yeah. Here is one I am completely interested in, Brad. Corey Thompson. He tends to start the season very on fire. Last season, he started the season with scores of, hang on, let me just get it up. But he's the kind of player that is just that mega pod who can score big. So he started off the season 68, 59, 73, 67, 104, 52, 110. Is he someone you would consider at 500K?
I I don't mind him at all, especially their early start to the season looks sort of similar to what they had last year, and that's what he scored really well. I mean, he certainly puts in a lot of effort. You can't fault the kid for trying. So that's sort of player that I would spend some money on. You know, I like to see a bit of work rate in these sort of players, and I don't mind that at all, because he'd be quite lowly owned, surely 1 or 2% or something like that.
Yeah, very lowly. I would say he's owned by less than 500 people. I'll figure that out. But Tim, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I like it. I think the price is a little bit awkward, you know, because it's the start of the season. So you'd be going him instead of, like, if you're going cheap in your centers and you did want to get one guy, you'd be picking him over, say, like the Stags or that Sloan option, which I don't mind. Or there's probably a lot of juicy 400k options. But yeah, the price is a little bit awkward. But those scores you said were pretty nice. There was a few tons in there, and there wasn't anything really yuck at all. It was all like 60s and at worst. So I do like it, man. Like, I think that's the type of thing when you come against someone who you're playing in head to head, and you see that they've got that guy, you'll be like, oh, geez. Oh, it's scary. You know what I mean? And I kind of don't mind having players that I'm scared that other players would have. So he's, for that factor, yeah.
So he is at 1%, 648 owned, which is absolutely pod territory with a good start. I think it's kind of a good option. 433k, Katoni Stags. I mean, he's probably in all of our sides, but the question is he someone we want to anti-pod?
I don't have him.
You don't have him?
No, I've elected to go Paul Moborowski instead, purely out of the fact that Paul costs more money, obviously, even if he's getting the start. So it's an anti-pod at the start of the season. While I think that Katoni is really good, I think it's also a spot where I can put a pod in say, Paul Moborowski, and potentially try to get just a short burst, a bit like split the gap a little bit, because if he has a couple of games, he's shown the tendency to throw out a 19 or a 25. But I think with Paul, with his sort of his floor, and then also center as well, I think he gets into his work pretty handily as well, because he makes a fair few tackles outside the halfback, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of traffic ran at him if he's on Sam Walker's side. So,
Timmy.
You got me thinking, man. You got me thinking. I hate having to stress it out so much about this.
Is he an option to antipod? Yeah, I'll come back.
Thinking about Momo at the moment, but yeah, like he is. Like, you totally could. Like, I don't think he's a must-have at all. Like, why would he be? You know what I mean? Like, he is injury prone. It's not like he has had massive scores under his belt. He's just really exciting and has, that potential to do very, very well. But it's just one of those ones you got to just pick on gut, I guess. And it's not that big of a deal which one you like, whether you go with that way or the other. I don't think in your centers and that sort of stuff anyway. I think if they're killing it, you'll try to get them in anyway.
Jake, do you think Katoni is worth possibly anti-potting?
I definitely think he is. I mean, the fact he's so highly owned is because everyone has seen that he's so highly owned, so they pick him anyway. I mean, based on previous years, he's definitely underpriced. But like Tim said, he's not a player that has scored massive scores. Like, he might score 2 tries and score 90. He's not a massive worker. He just loves those flashy little runs where he pumps off 6 players and scores a try. So, like, you go to Moborowski, and there's sort of around that 450 or 400 to 500k. There's a lot of other plays you can sort of go. Lomax, although Dragons draw isn't very good. Like we mentioned before, around 20 or something, it still gets good. So, yeah, I mean, there's definitely other players around that price that can do an even better job than what Stags can do. Broncos after South, I think, have a if he gets a spot, but on the wing, I probably wouldn't be going Meanies. I don't think he's a player that's going to have a massive ceiling.
I think he could score some tries, though.
I'd much prefer him over Xavier Coates, who's pretty highly owned. at the moment. Brad, you look like you got
I
something.
was just going to say, because Nick Meaney was previously a fullback, and if he does get the wing spot out, and so Xavier coaches the other wing, because Xavier doesn't really have that high of a work rate. I mean, Storm wingers don't generally have that higher work rate, and usually it's Pappy trucking a bit of nut out the back. But just wondering if he picks up potentially more of that work rate. So if he does jag that spot, I definitely prefer Nick Meaney over Xavier Coates.
100%. In that price range, obviously we've probably got to target one or two players at that price range. Tim, is there anyone that really tickles your fancy?
At that 400-ish K one sort of price range.
Like
Only
mid-range.
Sloan, man. The one that's really playing in my mind is Sloan. I think I'd like to. I hadn't paid attention to the draws. The draws put me off him, but I think I'd want to jump on him when the draw's right, because we'll get to see enough of him too when he's playing tougher sides, and then we'll be able to say, well, there's more to come when the draw softens up. So we'll get a vibe on it. He's someone I'm really interested in, just because he's a fullback that we can slot into the centers, which I think is always a wonderful thing.
He did look slick in the All-Stars game too.
Yeah, I like the way he changed direction.
Beefed up a bit as well,
Yeah. He did look a little bit bigger, didn't he?
He's got a really good try scoring record as well. Jake, anyone in that price range that you're after?
Well, I mean, I do like the Hammer. He's at 415. The only thing against the Hammer is he's in a terrible side that played on last. He played wasn't many games at fullback last year, but he looked good. I think it was bring it up. What did he score? He scored 98, 50, 52, and then 40 in 10 minutes before going off injured. And he's a player that can just score a try by himself with that blistering pace he's got.
And he's lanky.
He's just
if it was to keep the fullback position, then I think he's kind of a handy pickup. But I do like Sloan more than him at that price, sort of
almost
thing.
Throw both in if you say downgrading Aiken or someone. But
possibly.
I think the Cowboys draws a lot better than the Dragons.
Soft.
They versus a few teams that are on their level.
Bulldogs, Raiders, Broncos, then the Roosters, and then the Warriors, and the Raiders again, Titans and Eels.
So maybe you could go Hammer or something to Sloan at one point when it might be a sideways move, but I don't mind sideways moves when they're based on rotation and stuff like that. Like if you're changing 5'8",
especially the fact we got more trades as well.
When you think of it, the Hammer, you'll be getting him at 415, and what's Sloan at the moment? Like 450. Yeah. So the idea would be to wait till Hammer kind of raises in price and Sloan drops in price, and then I kind of swap at the right time.
And take a bit of bank with you.
I think obviously if the Hammer raises in price, you can obviously if Sloan doesn't work out and he's not passing the eye test, you can kind of go to the must-have center wing at the kind of mid-range price.
Or if the Hammer's killing it and that Sloan still looks promising, you can pick them both and then upgrade one of the other guys. So I think having fullbacks is super nice in CW.
I actually really like the Hammer shout. I think I will consider it myself.
Well, especially if you, as you said, Savs, before, you got Ewan Aiken up in your second row. So you got plenty of flexibility, because I presume you've got Isaac Targo as well. I mean, presuming he gets named.
Yeah, I think I've tried to keep him in my second row as well. He is at the moment,
Well, here's an interesting one. Sorry, go ahead.
No. Oh, sorry. I was going to say someone like I know a lot of people are pretty keen on Maddo this year. So if you had Ewan Aiken or something down in your second row, and if you're worried about the concussion type thing, and if he does cop one, say round 2 or whenever it sort of happens, I mean, it's pretty easy switch with that sort of flexibility to be able to run in one of these cheaper price sort of center wings for Maddo, or if Dave Feeder's ribs aren't that handy or something early. I mean, it's pretty easy. And then you got a massive bank, and if you're not starting with Cleary or Turbo, then there's that sort of money if one of those two are absolutely popping off at the start. So
pop off. Mikey always says pop off too. So I love that you've come in his replacement and said every time Mikey says, once they start popping off, I think it's funny. I love the word pop off. There was a swimmer called Pop Off, wasn't there, or something? Or what sport was he at?
Popovich.
Popovich.
Swimmer.
Yeah.
All right. So price range, there's not heaps anymore. Jake, is there anyone else you like?
Well, sort of a bit more expensive. Someone I don't mind sort of round 3, I think when Latrell comes back, will be Campbell Graham if he gets the left edge spot, left centre spot. I mean, we saw Gagai, he averaged I don't know what he averaged, but he got to
probably
60
70s or something.
So he averaged quite a lot. 70. So if you're throwing Campbell Graham on the left side
70?
with outside Walker,
68.
Yeah. So I think he's the one I'm going to look at. He has to have a pretty easy run after the first couple of games. So he's early on trade that I'm looking at.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't Campbell? So Gagai was on the left last year, but the year before that, Campbell Graham was on the left, and that's when he scored a heap of tries and sort of was averaging extremely high. And I think for him to average as well as he did last year, Campbell Graham, because he was still pretty handy last year.
People are still considering him.
56, yeah. In the right centre, so putting him to the left with a few more tries.
I like that. Nice mention, Jake.
I do like it. I don't know if they're going to go that kind of direction, though, because they'll have who will they have? They'll have a new right winger. They'll have a new right edge because Jaden Sewer's gone. So it just really depends on whether they're going safety or
sorry, the name just Josh Mansour playing right wing, or is he not?
I don't know. I've seen Jackson Paulo is meant to play one of the centers. I think Jackson Paulo is meant to play left center, right? Yeah, so Josh Mansour will get a spot. Looks like.
Yeah. I was thinking he'd probably just slot into the right wing, wouldn't he?
Sorry?
I just thought that he'd probably slot into the right wing, and then they'd do a bit of a shift.
You would think so. I guess stepping down in price, Selwyn Cobbo is quite highly owned at $320,000. Looked quite good on the weekend with a few tackle breaks here and there. Played 50-odd minutes. He is at around 30% ownership. Any of us considering Selwyn Cobbo at $320,000?
He's in my side.
100%.
It's not even
definitely after the injury to Tessie New, I think he could even get a fullback spot for the first 6 or so rounds.
That'd
they're
be
not really keen on Asako, so he could go wing.
When did Tessie get injured? I didn't know about this.
Hamstring injury. Yeah.
All right. I mean, Tessie.
Yeah, well, I guess I might have to consider him. But Broncos also had a trial on the weekend, and on one of the wings, Jordan Pereira, had an absolute blinder. Any of us have him in our side at $260,000? He was straight in my side after the weekend. Brad?
Yeah. Got him in. He looks really good. Tackle break ability, finds the line. I mean, he sort of just flopped over for a 1 or 2 on the weekend, but I think the rest of his carries out of yardage were quite impressive. He certainly knows how to break tackles and the line and the work. So, quite impressed.
So I've got that Tass from the Bunnies and Key from the Tigers at bottom dollar, $175K. But I've got a feeling that I'm probably going to want to try already upgrade them to like some of those $200K pricey ones. There's like that Jordan Pereira. There's a couple of players around that price that I think might be a better go. And I think that if I just tweak a couple of things here or there, then I could make a better side. But it's very TLT dependent. And I just sort of plug them in for now because they're cheap and it makes it me sort of squeeze in a few others.
Just quick thoughts on so Sawali apparently out round 1. Do you think that if there's a Kevin Nguama on the wing, would you potentially say that Sawali ends up when he's fit coming back taking that place off Kevin Nguama? Or
I reckon.
I find when these kind of
a different
players, I find when these kind of players have injuries, unless they're absolutely experienced, they kind of get back in the when something else comes about. So say Momorowski gets injured, that's when Swali will come in the side, especially if Nguama doesn't let you down and they're like 3-3. I think that's what I think. I think Swali, he probably shouldn't be as highly owned as he is. He's the most owned player in the game.
Well, that's
I think
what
he's just
sort of
desperate to play
alluding
footy.
to there.
He didn't get enough footy last year. There was like the interruptions of, I think, COVID. I think also they stopped him playing because of, did the HSC interrupt his thing? Like they were going to let him play on, but then they decided, nah, we'll just let you go.
Yeah.
Study, do your thing. It's all good.
And
Something
he had
like
an
that.
injury. He had an injury quite late as well, wasn't it? Liz Frank or something like that.
So there's a lot of things going on there, and I don't really think we got to see enough or the most of him, but we've seen enough of him to justify wanting to have him in. But yeah, I guess if he's not playing the first couple of rounds, that's kind of annoying. But
that's what I was sort of alluding to, because I think Robbo will potentially try and keep him on ice. I think we've seen both himself and also Sam Walker probably a lot earlier than the Roosters would like to have had blooded these players. So, yeah, I could potentially see him spending a fair bit of time out and probably coming in around that origin period, helping out. I think he's quite highly owned for a potential not to play till origin. So I don't know if I'd keep him there benched just as an NPR, just hoping and praying that he'll be back in the next couple of rounds, because I don't really believe that he will till around.
See, I didn't
origin.
know that. I wasn't aware that he was sort of not going to get the start because of an injury, and then it was going to be it makes sense to, considering the Roosters have had that stress of injuries last year, why would they sort of, rush? If they've got all these other fit players around, just let them do the job for the time and bring him on when the time's right and when he's ready. It makes more sense. Maybe I might have to flick him out. I'll have a closer look at that, I guess, when it comes
I just thought with the purchase as well of Paul Moborowski and then also Kevin Naguama, presuming some of these are depth as well, but I just thought that, because I think Moborowski's on about a 2-year deal, so I'm thinking that has to do something with Suwali moving into the centres after they sort of move Paul on, I'm presuming, or he might stay as depth or something like that. But yeah, and then he's still got Adam Keegren as well, which played quite well in the centres at the end of last year. So I think they might try and limit his sort of exposure this year to the NRL, because he got beaten up a bit last year as well. Like, he still held his own, but yeah.
Very good. Anyone else kind of at the mid-range price that we're after, or we'll get straight into the cheapies?
I just wanted to go back to
you're right. Go for it. Shoot.
I just want to go back to Jordan Pereira and sort of Selwyn Cobbo. So the Broncos announced their trial team this week, which looks, apart from a few names, pretty full strength. They've got Cobbo and Oates on the wings, David Mead at fullback, and Jordan Pereira's in a very long extended bench. So I don't know if that means that he's, I guess, behind those two guys.
Or has he leaped in front of them and
he's given the fact he's being named at the end?
Yep.
I don't know if I'd look too much into that, though, because all reports sort of Oates has been training with the seconds team the whole time.
I read something on Twitter today that Penrith are looking at buying Oates.
Saw that one.
Oh, that would be nice.
That's handy. So I still rate Corey Oates, and I think he's still got plenty of good footy in him, and I think he carries the ball quite hard. I just think potentially he's just like a Luke Brooks. I think he should just get out of the club that he's in, just stuck in a little up there. So
agree. So we got Taylor May at centre wing as well, 250,000. Looks like you're getting starting spot. He's in all of our teams. Yes, thumbs up. Nope. Yep.
If he starts,
yeah. So he'll probably start for me round one, as well
against Manly.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll destroy Manly.
Nah, they won't. Manly's going to win. Will Penasini, 250,000. I'm seeing obviously a lot of teams with him, but if you're deciding whether to start him or bench him, he did really well in that semi-final last year, and I think he is a good Supercoach option. With Parramatta have a decent draw to start off with too. I think he's someone you got to consider starting, because he's someone you could easily just leave on the bench for round one and kind of miss that initial round one score. Jake, have you seen much of Will Penasini?
Yeah, apparently he was in the same school as Suwali, grew up playing alongside him. A lot of them. I hear that every time these bloody playing, so just sort of throw that in there. But yeah, I think he's going to be just the fact that he's a cheap price and he's going to be playing. He's going to be in majority of teams anyway. Whether people are starting him depends on what other options they have, whether they're starting him or sitting him on the bench.
Yeah, so he's at 40% owned and 57% are starting and 43% are benching. So 43% is quite a lot of people considering. But I think the Eels' kind of attacking abilities kind of been a bit under talked about this off season, and I think he could get over the line for a try or two in the first round, especially with Sivo gone. And I'm really considering starting Gutho instead of Tedesco, which is absolutely rogue. Look at your face. I'm just a bit scared from that Tedesco talk with the stem cell with his knee. Did you hear about that?
Yeah. I dropped Eddie for Gutho in round 5 or 6 last year. Yeah, and Gutho went an absolute tear just against easy opponents. He was putting up tons for fun. So, I don't hate that as a shout. Yeah. And he throws a nice ball. As long as is Will playing on the left-hand side, left centre? Is that right?
I think he might be left centre.
Right. Wanga Blake.
Wanga
Blake will play left centre.
Wanga Blake's left centre?
Yeah, because he loves a left foot step.
Well, whoever the left winger is, then just probably disregard them because Wanga Blake likes to hold the ball.
Yeah, he's a whole
bloke. Tyrone Peachy sent us a video saying James Roberts has been looking good in the off-season, 270,000. Any of us considering him, Tim?
Jimmy the Jet.
Jimmy the Jet.
Yeah, look, I used to have a great soft spot for Jimmy. He used to always feature in my side, but not lately, man. I just, I don't know. There just seems to be stuff going on. I don't know. I don't like it.
I think that jet needs to be refueled by the looks of things. So I think it's just been sitting on the tarmac for quite some time.
Yeah, and, he was on a train and trial deal to start the season and got upgraded. So maybe that was the refuel.
Yeah.
Potentially. Could be. But
it's the same story as last year. I mean, he was same price last year and people started with him and he did nothing and then got dropped.
Yeah.
But is that that price as well where you can easily flick to him if he kills it 2 rounds? Because I also don't think as well he'd be able to put together a long period of games and have that sort of consistency. I don't think he's ever really shown any sort of consistency across his whole career, regardless of where he sort of played, even up at the Broncos and everything like that. I think he's had stretches of a couple of games where he's played quite well, but so you jump on for that round 3 price rise if that was going to happen, but you'd want to be getting off it pretty quickly after that as well.
Very good. Ben Trebojevic, centre wing. He's in a lot of sides, 37.9% of sides, guys. I think it's going to be a very similar story to last year where Desi has him on his bench once every blue moon and then plays him for 2 minutes. I think it's a trap. Yeah.
Part of that is just people wanting to see the name Trebojevic in their side.
Yeah, of course.
It is a little bit, hey?
Well, I think Tommy's too expensive and Jake's sort of lost his touch, I guess, for the Supercoach aspect of the game. I think he's still quality NRL, but I think so. I mean, having a turbo on your side can't hurt, even if they're not playing. I think it adds at least 20 points just onto your score, regardless if he plays or not. So
just the surname, yeah. I like it. I agree. I feel like when you come up against someone head-to-head and they've got Ben Trebojevic, you'd see the Trebojevic real quick and you'd be like, oh, they've got turbo. Oh, no, it's all right.
Do you think he's potentially a shot at the edge role, or do you think it'll be Davey or Carl Lawton replacing Schuster?
One of my mates just sent me a thing today saying that showed me a teams list thing and it reckons that Bullamore's getting the starting role. And if that's the case at 280K, I think he'll be in everyone's side.
That's this week's trial, Bullamore's name on the edge. And they've named 2 teams. The first team's like their strong side. And Lawton was at hooker and not Davey. Bullimore was at second round. Davey,
I'm not that fussed about Lawton as a footballer. Like, I'm not talking about Supercoach. Like, it's all right, yeah. And I'm not that fussed about.
I think he's a vibe on the edge. He's an absolute vibe.
Yeah, what'd you call him?
He's a vibe. He's an absolute vibe.
What did you call him, Brandon?
He's a gun.
Oh, okay. Sound like something else. Sound like something else.
He's also sexy as fuck.
He was better looking. He's been beat around now. He was better when he was younger, mate.
is this an indication that maybe because he's getting a full preseason under his belt that he might play hooker this season? Carl Lawton.
He could do.
I don't think that gets set up.
Obviously,
I think Croker did all right last year.
Croker did a good job, and I don't see them taking it off him, but, you know, could happen.
Has anyone heard what's going on with Manase Finu? Like, is he still in court?
Yeah, so last year in July, he was meant to have a court case, but it was adjourned because of COVID or something like that, lack of evidence or something. So it's been adjourned to this year. So,
God damn, he's cheap.
Yeah, I know.
He's a gun.
He'll be absolute bottom dollar next year, and
he's a gun.
Very good. So I guess we've kind of gone through, majority of it. We haven't picked a tooth comb through everyone. Xavier Coates, what do we think of him? We've got a question here. Connor Mack. Do we think I think he's going to do more of the same, maybe a few more tries, but they won't be line break tries. So,
yeah, potentially like an extra 10 points, I guess. But I sort of look at his scores and think he'd be quite similar to the Fox.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Pretty up and down. 1 week he'll come out and score a hat trick or 4 tries and score 150, and the next week he'll get 10. So
I don't think he'll have the ceiling the Fox has, though. Like, Fox can score 4 tries just because of his speed, whereas
but he's really good under a high ball, man. Yeah, he's really good.
Coates isn't quick off the mark like Josh Adokar is. Like, Josh Adokar can just slide through that gap in that first 10 meters if he's near the line, whereas Coates kind of takes a while to get going. Yeah, like he'll score more like up in the air tries and things like that. All right, we have 3 weeks until the season officially begins. Season launch is not far away. TLT is not far away, guys. We're considering doing a live pre-live show at Panthers down in the sports bar. What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, okay. I don't think it's a bad idea.
No, I don't
think it's a bad idea. I think it'd be a bit of shenanigans. Like if we're back at Panthers, we'll probably be pretty wild again. You're going to have a jug of cider again, are you?
Yep.
Yep.
Very good. So we're considering doing that, guys. So keep an eye out on the socials for that. We might lock that in the next week or so. And bold predictions, guys. Do we have any season-long bold predictions that we want to bring across to the table before we go? Brad, we'll start with you.
I'll just think of a quick one. Sorry. One of you go. Yeah, one of you should.
I'll back my one up from last episode that the Roosters will not lose by more than, so they'll win by 10 points or more up until round 9. So that includes beating Manly by, I think Manly by 10 points, and then they'll beat Rabbitohs by maybe like 14 to 18 points, something like that per bracket, and then they'll just pump other teams. That's my call.
Jake?
You've sprung this on me, mate. I've not come prepared with any bold predictions.
Yeah, neither do I, really. It's too far out. It's too far out, Brad.
I think that Zach Lomax will average more than Stags. Sorry that bold, but
I like it.
Just 1% wing.
I actually like it. I think it's very likely to. Like, Lomax is someone who arguably he hasn't proved it yet, but could be draw proof.
He has kicking as well too, so that's proved that.
Yeah. All right. Very good, guys. Thanks for tuning in, guys, on the YouTube live stream. Thanks for coming, Brad.
Cheers.
Ranked 11th. And Timmy. Thanks
ranked
for coming.
number 1. Yeah, that's right.
Don't worry. Next year, me and Saz will have the tracksuits on.
Yeah, and then we'll just be in the vintage ones at that stage, eh?
Yeah. Sounds good. I'm looking forward to it.
See you later, guys.
See you, boys.
Says.